guys, it's Mackenzie at Harrisburg District Library, and I am back with another session of Virtual Sketch Club. Now, if you've watched these videos before, then you know what to expect, but if you're new, then welcome. Feel free to check out our previous video of Virtual Sketch Club. Hopefully this video today will help you improve your drawing skills, or maybe brush up on something you've already been working on. Either way, you won't need any experience for this video because we're going to walk through it step by step. Here's what you'll need for today. You'll need a pencil, eraser, and paper to test on, as well as a Kleenex, blending stump, or just your finger. We also will be using a handout. You can follow along with us today using the handouts that we have available at the library. You're welcome to stop by and pick them up anytime. And hopefully this session will help you improve your understanding of light and shadow and how incorporating that into your drawing will help bring it to life. So let's grab a pencil and get started. Let's look at an example of lighting and shadows in real life. You can do this with any ordinary object. This is just a simple mug that I found online. You'll notice that the light is coming from the upper left corner and casting down at an angle. That means not every part is receiving light. To make sure your drawing looks realistic, you'll want to put this fact into action. You can see most of the light is reflecting off the left side of the cup. There's also some that's inside the cup, on the right, which fades as you go left. There's also a bit reflecting on the handle, but just in the middle mostly. Looking at the shadows, there's some on the inner wall of the cup on the left, and obviously some on the side of the cup that is not receiving direct light. The darkest shadow will be almost under the cup, where there is no light at all. This is an occlusion shadow. From this point, the shadow on the countertop goes outward, away from the light source. This is the cast shadow. The edges get hazier and lighter as it spreads out and comes in contact and mixes with light. It's hard to believe you can get all of that out of staring at a mug, right? Let's use what we've observed here in our drawing exercise. In this exercise, we are going to use the handout that has the coffee mug. We're going to try shading it in as naturally as possible, and this is going to help us to practice some of our techniques. To do that, we're going to draw a small circle like it says. So I'm going to say my sunlight's coming from this area. I'll just roughly sketch in my sunshine, and knowing where it's coming from will help me to picture the angle at which the highlight would be coming in, as well as where the shadows would naturally appear. So we really wouldn't see a lot of light inside the cup or along the bottom of it, even on the handle too. So we're going to add a lot of shading in those areas. If you're ever in doubt about what needs more shading, feel free to go back to that real-life example, whether you're drawing this coffee mug or if you're trying to draw something else. Just make sure you have some kind of reference, and that's going to make it a whole lot easier. The darkest shadow will be at the bottom, and it kind of creeps up the back side of the cup. This is the occlusion shadow, where the light is completely blocked out or obscured. This provides a nice sharp contrast of values that we want to maintain as we shade. So this is always going to be the darkest part of your cup. Inside the cup, we will have some shading against the wall that's closest to the light source, but it fades more and more as light is able to get in. Our shading will need to be blended. You can use a variety of tools, such as a blending stump, but for a job like this, something as simple as a clean tissue could work. Just wrap it tightly around your finger and gently work the graphite across the page as it smoothly fades. Make sure you work that all the way across the cup inside. That way it's a nice smooth gradient. And even in the brightest areas that receive the most light, you're still going to have some shading, some tint to it because it's not completely white. The same will apply to the other shading, and you may have to change your positioning inside your tissue if you notice that it's starting to wear down, or maybe it's just too dark and you want to get some fresh tissue in there so they can absorb the graphite better. What do you think? Does it look realistic yet? No, that's because we need to add more layers of shading. This means we're going to darken the areas that were originally darkest, but now maybe have faded as we've started blending them. Remember, we can always go darker, so don't start out too dark with your shading. We're going to start along the side here and kind of add some extra shading just very lightly towards the center, so we'll have a better transition later as we are spreading the graphite and shading it and smudging it. This is going to help us to have a nice smooth shadow instead of it being a choppy dark line on one side of it. We do still want to maintain our occlusion shadow and make sure that it emphasizes that this is the edge of the cup that is receiving no light whatsoever, so that'll still be the most contrasted shadow on our picture here. Next, let's try blending with our finger. This is going to help add a little more texture and also really smooth out our shading. And just keep working it towards the center of the cup from the edge. You'll notice that it starts to look more natural. The downside to shading like this is that you will end up a little dirty afterwards, but you just can't replace the effect that it creates. Don't go crazy and end up blocking out our natural light that is reflecting off the left side of it, but be sure to blend all the way to at least the center of your cup, and that'll make sure that it's a smooth transition. I am going to go ahead and replenish the side of this cup here with some dark shading. You'll notice as you're spreading the graphite across the cup that you kind of run out of graphite to work with. So this is going to help darken that one side that has faded now and give me some more to work with as I'm blending. To blend the rest of this that we just shaded, I'm going to use the tissue again and just localize where it's spreading. Now it is going to overlap over the side of the cup, but that's okay. We will go back in later with our eraser and do some cleanup, but this is just going to help us to get a nice smooth edge here. And don't forget to go back and darken your edges if need be. Just kind of use your best judgment and make sure that the darkest shading is going to be along the bottom and along the opposite side of your direct light. From there, we're also going to shade upwards and just kind of give a little bit of a rounded sketch up the side of the cup. That way you'll have some more shading to work with. If you feel like you have gone too dark in an area, you can try lightening it by gently dabbing your eraser against that area, just kind of working with it. You can also try using your tissue to take away some of the graphite in that area, just kind of blending it until it's faded. If all else fails, you can always try getting a kneaded eraser, and that will help you take away some of the shading without damaging the paper or taking away too much. It's a little more controlled. So at this point, just keep shading, keep adding layers and blending it as you go, but don't erase any of the extra shading yet, because then you may end up erasing too much, and then trying to replace the shading will be harder because it won't match the rest of it. Don't forget to go in and add some extra shading on the handle. You still want a line of highlights around the middle edge of it, and then maybe along the sides you will have some darker outlines, just emphasizing the edge of it. And just keep blending it until you notice that it's starting to look more rounded. Then you'll know you're on the right track. And I think at this point our cup is done being shaded. So let's go ahead and grab our eraser. Try very, very hard not to get into your cup. If you end up erasing part of it, you can fix it. But like I said earlier, if you try to replicate the shading that was once there, it will look a little different. So just be careful and maybe use your pencil eraser for some of these smaller corners and details that you can't reach with like a bigger eraser. Now that we've gotten rid of all of our extra shading, you can really tell that it is a cup, but naturally a cup would cast some kind of shadow. So keep in mind where the light is coming from and start working from the bottom of the cup and move it outwards. It will be the darkest near the cup, so just gently brush out your pencil as you go outwards from the cup and maybe go back over the area that is closest to the rim at the bottom, and then later on you will be able to blend that and make it look a little smoother and a little softer. I ended up going too dark on this end of the shadow, which should naturally be lighter. So I'm just gently taking my eraser and removing some of the graphite and then working the rest of it towards that area so it does fade and feather that way, but I still want that to be the lightest part of it. Just like we did earlier when shading the cup, we're going to add darker layers on our shadow cast from the cup and just keep mixing in more and more until it fades into a gradient away from the cup. And we're done, and hopefully your mug looks something like this. I hope you had fun today with this video and hopefully learned something new. You are welcome to stop by the library and pick up your own copy of the handouts that we used today. We've got the cup that you can shade for yourself at home, as well as some additional information on sketching and shading that will hopefully help you along the way. If you like this video, or if there's anything else that you would like to learn about drawing, feel free to let us know in the comments. Until next time, keep drawing!